So I want to talk about the rapture, and not so much the rapture, but kind of maybe how we're supposed to think about the rapture. I've been doing a lot of research and stuff, and just trying to go through book by book and taking notes, and I'm kind of working on a little bit of just end time kind of stuff. And so I've been looking at a lot of the rapture passages, and there's obviously different views on when it's going to happen and what it's going to look like and whatnot. And what I've noticed is when people try to explain their views, they'll give their passages and then it'll be like, see, it's pretty obvious. Like, if you don't believe that, then you don't believe the words of Jesus, and you don't believe the Bible. And then they start to insult each other and say, well, if you believe the other way, then that's doctrine from Satan himself, and you're just being blasphemous. And Jesus said that no one knows the day or the hour, and I think that we got to assume the possibility that we don't know what we're talking about. That maybe the reason that there's multiple views is that there's evidence, and I think there is evidence to suggest different points of view. I mean, I get why people believe pre-trib and why people believe post-trib and even a little bit of mid-trib, but what strikes me as I was kind of looking into this, because when the virus stuff started and things started getting shut down a little bit, I could not take my eyes off of the sky. I was just so excited and just felt at peace and was very happy, felt very close to God. I mean, I felt like I was on fire. And then as I started considering things, and I knew I always had kind of doubts about when it was going to happen. I don't like taking people's words for it. And I knew I was just going to have to get into the Bible and see for myself. And I had a lot of sleepless nights. Just for whatever reason, it's just like, I guess it was just on my mind. Well, I finally got to get through it, kind of came to my conclusions, and then the last few nights I've slept really good. I even slept on the floor, and I still slept really good. So my conclusions are that there's absolutely people taking things out of context. It's really easy to do, and there's compelling evidence that people present, and it makes a lot of sense. And some of the things, like I said, they get a little insulting. I don't think people are trying to lead people astray. They're just going by what they see, and if you just go by what you see, there's definitely evidence that points to different viewpoints. And I think the point is that where we don't know the day or the hour, I think the implication is that there's a chance that we don't really know how it's going to happen or what it's going to look like necessarily, and especially when is it going to happen. And I think we have to be open to the possibility that we could be wrong about things. And the reason I say that is, if you go to Matthew 24, at the end of Matthew 24, there's a parable about like the master of the house and land leaves and he puts a servant in charge, and it says something specific or something about if the servant thinks his master's delayed and he loses focus and he starts abusing the other servants and getting drunk and messing around and messing things up, then the master will come back when he least expects it, and there will be consequences. And then it goes straight into, I think, Matthew 25, and the 10 virgins, and the same thing's going on. Some are prepared and some are not. But the idea that he might not be there right when you think he's going to be there, it doesn't mean that he's late or he's never going to be there. It's just that you're wrong. Like, you just got to wait longer, and that can be really hard for people. But what's consistent through it all is Jesus is saying, watch, be prepared, don't get slack, keep the faith, be patient. And I think what he wants is that for us not to put our hope in a rapture, but to put hope in him. I mean, that's what it's all been about, him. He's the one who died on the cross, took our sins, was buried, rose again, and if we believe in him, then we can be saved. And that's where our hope's got to be. Because if he doesn't show up exactly when we think he's going to show up, or if you believe a different way or whatnot, you think he shows up about when you think he's going to show up, you have to be prepared with, well, what if he doesn't do what you think he's going to do? And that's been a little bit of a fear of mine, that if he doesn't show up exactly when, like if you start looking around and you kind of feel like you're in the middle of Revelation and he hasn't showed up yet, do you just lose your faith? I mean, what happens there? How do you deal with it? And maybe this has all just been more for me than for anyone else, but if anyone else has had these kinds of thoughts and worries and stuff, like, we know we win at the end. We know that right now there are people being persecuted, there are people dying, people can't own land and hold jobs just because they're Christians. And we live in this bubble that we don't really get a lot of that stuff. And like, we can get through it even if we got to be here for the long haul. And I just hope that everyone is prepared to put their faith in Jesus and not necessarily a specific event that we can't really say with confidence when it's going to happen, because Jesus told us that nobody knows when it's going to happen. I think that the only thing I know for sure is that we have to rely on God. We have to humble ourselves. We have to seek him. We have to trust Jesus. We have to trust that there's going to come a day when he's going to come and collect us. And we have to be prepared to wait for him, because this is all happening in God's time. We cannot control this. I think everyone would be quite happy if it happens right off the bat. If it happened in 3 minutes, that'd be fantastic. But if it doesn't, nothing changes. We still do the things that we're supposed to do. If we're still being a good servant, it's not going to make much difference. There's still going to be persecution. It's going to probably get worse. But in the end, if we die and we get to be with Jesus, it's going to be okay. I know that's not necessarily super comforting, but it is pretty freeing if you let yourself get into it. I'm not saying we should tempt God and be reckless with stuff, but it means that we have a hope that we can get through anything, and that is very powerful, and that can be very comforting if you let it comfort you. So I guess to summarize, we have to trust God and rely on him. The important point is not in our time, but in God's time. This is ultimately his will be done, not ours. If he wishes us to sit here for a little bit, and it's entirely possible that's what he wants, then let's be prepared to do that. And if he says, nope, you come on up with me right now, alright, you're not going to get much argument. So I don't want to discourage anybody, but I do want everyone to be prepared, because we just don't know when. We don't know the day or the hour, and I don't want people to be blind by pride. It's so sure that to the point where you're going to insult somebody, and that's not something that needs to divide us. We're all ultimately hoping and looking forward to the same thing. We just disagree on potentially when it's going to happen. But that's sort of the point. We don't know when it's going to happen. I mean, I don't think Jesus was meaning specifically specific day, specific hour. I think he's trying to tell us that, hey, you're not going to know. I mean, you might see signs, you might see these things happening and you know it's getting close, but that doesn't mean you're going to be able to pinpoint it. It doesn't mean it's going to happen in your time and what you've been taught. I mean, you go into the Bible, look for yourself. Don't let this kind of thing divide you, and don't let it get discouraging if you think, well, shouldn't it have happened already? Relax. It's going to happen. The important thing is be the good servant. Be the one that's always watching and waiting for him and acting the way you're supposed to act. Because we don't. It's like at the end of Job when God shows up and starts talking to him. He lets him know you have no power, you have no control, you have no knowledge, you know nothing. You can't even comprehend how much you don't know. And this is one of those situations where I think people are setting themselves up. And I'm not even trying to say what I believe either way. I'm just trying to say, like, if he's even just a little bit late, what's that going to do to you? Are you going to be able to handle that? Or are you just going to just give up and be like, maybe I was wrong about this? Like, it doesn't change anything. You have to remind yourself. I never knew when this was going to happen. Jesus told us in the Bible, nobody knows but the Father. So if it doesn't happen exactly when you think it's going to happen, just wait longer. Like, it's going to happen eventually. And if you go through some bad times, without a doubt, this is a bad moment in world history, and we're going through it. And other bad things are probably going to happen. We'll get through it. Either we'll survive it, or we'll be with Jesus, and we're not going to care. So, I hope this is a little bit comforting. I have found it comforting. Like I said, I've gotten to get a lot more sleep. I'm not tossing and turning. I even got to sleep on the floor next to Wyatt on the couch because he was having a little bit of a rough night. And I still slept great. Like, I'm just at peace over this because I don't have this stress. Like, I feel like I don't care anymore. Like, it's going to happen or it's not when I think it is, or it's going to happen eventually, and I'm just going to trust that he knows what he's doing. And I hope that that's what everyone else is doing, because I think we're going to be way more effective as Christians if we can say, God's coming, he's coming back. And we don't know when it's going to happen. So you have to get yourself prepared, because if it happens today, what's going to happen? But if it don't happen today, in our eyes, and it don't happen for another 3 years, and we're knee deep in something, we know that every day it passes, we're getting closer to that point. So, have faith, be strong, relax. Worst case scenario, we get to meet him a little sooner. And I'm not trying to be glib, I'm not trying to downplay stuff. I'm not saying I'll be excited if I have to go through that. But I'm going to do my best to trust God and trust that he's going to get me through this. He's going to get my family through this. And all I have to do is do what I already know I'm supposed to do. Try to talk about God as much as I can with people. Do what he asked me to do. Be the servant. He's the Lord, we're the servants. And if he tarries, if he doesn't show up when we expect him, that's okay. Don't panic. It just means that was part of his plan. And that's a good thing, because we want it to be according to his plan. We don't know what's best for us. We think we do, but 9 times out of 10, we probably screwed it up. So I would much rather he have his way, because he's not going to screw it up. So that's it. I love you. Old confession, I forgot to pray today at 2. So if you prayed, sorry, I wasn't there with you. But I'm going to set my timer. I get to playing with the kids outside, and I was feeding Harper some applesauce, and I remembered a couple minutes before, and literally 2 minutes later I'd forgotten again. So a little bit of a crazy day, but try this again next time. Alright, bye.